Well, hello. This is Connie Davidson, and this has been a very incredible week for me in my journey to understand how to personalize learning using the iPad and other mobile devices. I came to the conference with a desire to learn about the iPad and how it's used in the classroom, but I found that as the days progressed, I was focusing in on what is it I need to do in order to help teachers understand how they need to change their thinking about teaching and learning in order to implement the tools that will engage children in becoming more responsible for their learning. So initially, I created a schematic that looked like this. And this image here is an image of the steps that a teacher would need to think about as they begin to plan for teaching using mobile devices in their classroom. And so it's a problem-based learning model that reinforces the idea that these are the decision points a teacher's going to need to think through as they get ready to implement. And they start with it's going to be problem-based learning, which is the style of teaching that's going to take place in the classroom as opposed to a direct instruction model. Then the teacher needs to think about, well, what resources am I going to need to have available in order for the students to be able to solve their problems for themselves and in the process demonstrate their knowledge and their understanding. So within those resources there are going to be a variety of tools, and the tools that I speak about here are going to be digital tools that are going to help leverage that learning. Then the students have to be taught how to work independently and together so that when they are on their own, which should be most of the time, doing the solving of the problem, they know how to collaborate and communicate with one another. Then the teacher starts teaching the content. Then once you've thought all these things through, you can say, okay, now I'm going to give them the things they need from the content or the teaching of the tools in order for them to be able to implement and solve this problem for themselves. And then the children need time to create. They need that independent time where you facilitate, but you allow them to work together and solve the problem the way they want to solve it, and then create their evidence of knowledge in the way they want to present it. And then they share it out. It's published. And the goal is that reaches the thing. And even though I just call it the thing, what's really important to understand is if you don't know what the thing is, the teacher doesn't know what the thing is before they start teaching, then this road is going to be very bumpy and full of ruts and full of detours that are never going to get the students to the thing, the vision, the place. If the teacher has to be so clear on what that is before they get started, because if you're not, you aren't going to be able to provide the supports or articulate the not the end product, but the vision towards the end product, nor will you be able to understand how to design it for students to get there. So if the students are going to be in a triathlon and one of the heats is swimming, and you forget to teach them how to swim or to swim for long periods of time, but you practice everything else, then your children are going to fail in that triathlon. So you need to think through, what are the things they need to know? How am I going to give them those things? How am I going to set them up to learn those things, experience those things, and be able to manipulate those things so that they can create and provide their own solutions and their own demonstration of knowledge that they learned in the process. And that's the second thing I learned, is that it's about the journey, not about the thing. And I always taught that way, but it just was reinforced here this week through my wonderful facilitators and the conversations that we had with one another. The final piece, which is really the horse, which drives this whole thing, is the teacher's own cognitive understanding of what this kind of learning environment needs to have, what kind of structure or framework needs to be in place in order for the teacher to create that environment so that the students can learn independently and have a personalized learning goal. So this morning is when I had my epiphany, at which point I created this image. And let's see, in this image, it is the process. It looks like everything's backwards, but it's the process that one goes through when one is teaching anything to anyone about how to change their mind on a personal level. And this is I call it the personalized learning cycle. And this cycle is a cycle a teacher would use, but it's also for their students. But this is also the cycle that a teacher's teacher or a facilitator of teachers has to use in order for the teacher to make the cognitive shift so that they have internalized how this learning cycle works. And until they personally have gone through this learning cycle, the implementation of technology in the classroom is going to be on a very low level, and it's going to be more about replacing what they already do with this tool, but not changing how they teach. And what we want to do is change how they teach. So in this particular personalized learning cycle, obviously you start with the goal. And the goal is, for this one, it's going to be teacher driven. I want to learn how to teach differently. I want to learn how to fully integrate technology into my classroom. Or it could be, I just want to learn how to blog and how to put that into my class. So once the goal has been established, then the teacher, you need to assess where is the teacher on the continuum of using technology. Are they a novice? Are they a tourist? Are they a native? Then you and the teacher sit down together and create a plan. What's that going to look like? How do you want to go about implementing this change in your classroom? Then the teacher needs models so that they can see. This is really huge. They need to see kids doing what they do, and they need to see teachers teaching the kids in that environment, and they need to have some time to talk to the kids and find out what they're learning. Now, some of the time that can be done person to person, other time it has to be done virtually. Then from that, the teacher needs to be coached as they begin to implement what was modeled. Then they need the independent practice where they're doing it on their own in their class, seeing what's working, what's not working, and from that they come back with a progress report on, this is what I implemented, this is how it worked, this is how it didn't work, or so on. And then the goal is looked at again to see where are you on the path to reaching your goal. You assess the progress, and then you create a new plan. It's like, I liken this to having a personal trainer. You go in and you say, I want to lose 25 pounds. Okay, so that's your goal. You might go in and say, I want to lose 150 pounds, but the personal trainer will say, let's just start with 25. So you state your goal. Your trainer assesses where you are physically. Then you and the trainer sit down and create a plan. And then the trainer models how to use the weights and how to use treadmills and tells you need to be doing things for so long. Then the trainer actually watches you lift those weights and get on that treadmill to make sure you know how to do it correctly, because doing it correctly, knowing exactly how it works so that you will exercise and use the right muscles. Then you have to practice on your own. You have to practice and practice and practice. So you practice until it's time for you to go back to the trainer, and then the trainer puts you on a scale for a progress report, and he takes your measurements again to see how's it working. And then that is assessed, and then there's a new plan. So that happens all the time, and that's the part of the process that you have to use when you are getting ready to work with the teachers. And this really has to be a professional learning environment where they're coming together at least once a month for them to talk about their successes, their failures, and to add new ideas about, oh, I found this app. Oh, I see they do this. If that doesn't happen, then the teacher is going to be stagnant, and the learning environment will continue to be inflexible, because all of this process and the cycle for learning, this personalized learning, requires flexibility. So I want to leave with this quote about what really has to happen is that teachers have to become flexible enough to create an environment in their classroom that is flexible enough to allow the students to become flexible enough to be responsible for their own learning. And that's what the main takeaway that I have here is that we have to stretch, just like we do in yoga, but you don't want to stretch so much you're going to hurt yourself. You take a little bit at a time, but you do need to have a yogini there to help you understand how to flex it properly. So thank you. It was a wonderful week, and I appreciate everything. Goodbye.